Hello, this is Angelica Yingst, and you're listening to Centered, grounded conversations about the metaphysical.
Welcome to November, friends. It's Angelica Yingst, your friendly neighborhood brujita, and I'm here with a cosmic forecast that's as goth and intense as Scorpio. It's not really. I love being goth when I was goth, but I do enjoy turning on the Joy Division. So if you would like to, turn on your favorite goth music. I'm just going to suggest Joy Division, maybe The Cure if you consider that goth, or what else could we turn on? Maybe a little Sisters of Mercy or something. You can pull out your clove cigarettes and your double espressos, because we are dealing with Scorpio on steroids. So we're starting November with a little bit of tension in the air. And I'm not just talking about the election season stuff. And I'm not talking about the earth is actually boiling stuff. Though, side note, did you guys see the time lapse of the vanishing Aral Sea? I think it was on NPR on the app, probably on the website. But it had this time lapse of the Aral Sea just kind of disappearing from 1960 to now. Whoa, dude. Whoa. Come on, bro. If you screamed at the screen too, you're one of us. I don't want to make Mother Earth furious. I think she's mad at us. But at any rate, I'm not going on full Earth apocalypse mode, but it sometimes overwhelms me. And the fact that it was 80 degrees when I was trick-or-treating with my children last night just is, I don't know, it felt weird. I put on a sweatshirt just to be defiant and will Mother Earth to make it a little colder. Did not happen. I sweat my ovaries off, but I don't have those, so, I just sweat a lot. So, anyway, that was so me that first 2 minutes. But all right, let's just, as we ride out these nerves, so to speak, we can kind of flip that energy, right? We can flip it into the energy that they use on stage, which is anxiety to excitement. We're going to need to muster our own excitement. I'm just saying. But there's a Scorpio new moon on the 1st of November. So if you're listening to this on the 1st, happy new moon in Scorpio. That's kicking off the month. And it's really a cool full moon because it's aligning with Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, or the Days of the Dead. And that's cool. All Saints Day, Halloween, whatever you want to think of it as. We're really primed for a fresh start here. Samhain is considered, the New Year, the witch's New Year. Some people consider it the solstice to be the New Year, but Samhain is pretty much agreed to be the New Year. But to see where this is going to hit you, I'm just going to say that we're in a Scorpio sun. Currently, we're in a Scorpio moon. So look at where Scorpio falls on your chart. And a quick rundown. So if your rising sign is your rising sign is your first house, okay? And then the signs follow in sequence. So your second house is the following sign. So for example, let's use Aries. Aries is the first sign, so we'll use that. If your rising sign is Aries, then your first house is in Aries, okay? Or Aries is in your first house, sorry. If you have an Aries rising sign, that means your second house, Taurus, is in your second house because Taurus follows Aries. Then your third house has Gemini in it, okay? So even if you don't have any planets in Scorpio, the house that it's in will show where this intense reset hits, right? So I have a Gemini rising. Cancer's my second house. Scorpio, I don't have any Scorpio placements, but my sixth house is in Scorpio. and my sixth house is the one of health and healing and all those things, right? So I know that during this new moon season and this Scorpio time, I'm going to be dealing with that. Okay. So just kind of looking at it that way can be really helpful, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't have any whatever. And it's like, well, you have a house, that sign is in one of your houses, because the house goes around. You have 12 house placements. This is if you do whole house astrology, which is kind of the base astrology that a lot of people do. So we actually have 2 new moons this month, so we're kind of like bookended in this month with the first new moon, which is the new moon in Scorpio, and then you'll have another new moon in Sagittarius. So the second new moon is called the black moon, much like a blue moon when there's 2 full moons in a month. But that internal, intense new moon energy is a lot like Scorpio to begin with, which is why I keep saying this is going to feel like Scorpio on steroids. We're going internal, right? So Scorpio is an interesting sign, and I want to talk a little bit about Scorpio, because Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It's like, why are you telling me that, Ange? I'm telling you that because Scorpio's watery nature is movable. It's mutable, right? It's a mutable, water is mutable, right? But when you have a fixed sign, which is solid, stable, earthy, it has this dichotomy, and Scorpios are filled with dichotomies, right? They want to flow and move, but they're also stubborn, and they want to push against the flow. They want to do their own thing, right? They want to push the envelope and be a rebel. They're not great with following rules, but they get upset when other people don't follow the rules. They want to ground by looking at the sky, so to speak. So, this is sort of the energy of Scorpio. They have that internal opposition. They want both things at the same time. They're, alive and living and creative and smart and insightful. And also, they're the sign that kind of deals with and contemplates death. And when you have those oppositions, sometimes you can have anxiety. Sometimes you can have that feeling of like being a little crazy, or feeling like things are crazy for you. And so that's why Scorpio can have like a difficult reputation, because they do feel out of sorts a lot of times in their own body. Now, when you meet an actual Scorpio, they are very somatic. If they're present and they're in their bodies, they are the happiest, But it's when they kind of get caught in that loop of thinking, right? So when we're in a Scorpio time, we have to also feel that dichotomy a little bit of like wanting to go and also want stability. They want freedom and stability. And one of the reasons is that, this is a sign traditionally ruled by Mars, the fiery war god. But it's weird because he also rules Aries, right? So later, Mars got replaced by Pluto. That's more in modern astrology. And Pluto, the god of death. So, we know that this kind of energy of Pluto and Mars, being basically the parents of Scorpio, can be a little hard, Nothing can go wrong there, right? By the way, like Mars is all over the place astrologically right now. So you're going to have any of those planets that are ruled by Mars feel all over the place. We're in a pre-retrograde Mars era. And Mars retrogrades are very dramatic. Just Mars. I'm talking to you. Come on, brah. Get it together. So anyway, Scorpio, chilling with Aries in Mars family. One of the things is like modern astrologers are like, hey, you should just use Pluto. But I think it would be weird to do that. Scorpio is like the one that wears all black and contemplates the meaning of life and death and collects weird taxidermy and dissects dead insects. And, we think Scorpio belongs with Pluto, and old astrologers feel like it belongs with Aries. And part of that is because death. It's very Scorpionian. So anyway, when we have a new moon in Scorpio, we can feel it very intensely, and we have one every year. It happens in Scorpio. But, it pushes for deep transformation. It pushes for letting go. It pushes in new and powerful ways for us to uncover our hidden truths. It wants secrets. It wants to hear them. It wants to release them. It wants to do all of that. It wants to dive into the emotional depths. Or, I've known plenty of Scorpios who want to avoid the emotional depths. When we have a sign that's dominant, we are sometimes repelled by the very thing that it wants us to do. Why? Because it's freaking scary. And we're like, I'm not like that. I'm not doing that. So, right now would be a great time to set any intentions you have around transformation, healing, or empowerment. Okay, so this new moon's going to be pretty intense. And then the next day, Mercury trines Neptune. So Mercury is kind of moving into Sagittarius, which really helps us process our feelings. And then this aspect, which is more harmonious, brings us kind of like a softer energy. And it's a really good day to kind of reflect on what happened the day before, the week before. So, it's really encouraging you to use your words. But because this vibe's intense, don't just say whatever you want willy-nilly. Again, there's a dichotomy. Use your words, but think before you speak, okay? And the reason, astrologers are saying this is an intense new moon isn't just the new moon itself. It's the fact that Mars in Cancer opposite Pluto in Capricorn, which happens on Sunday, November 3rd. And this is really the most intense transit that's been around for a while, because it's setting this kind of tone that Mars and Pluto challenge each other. Basically, Scorpio's parents are battling for control. They're getting divorced. They got power struggles, hidden conflicts, strategic moods. So we're going to feel that intensity, that charged opposition, right? So it's essential to kind of stay vigilant, avoid impulsive reactions, because the energy here can be really relentless. It gives end of era vibes, especially if you are a Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra. But, a lot of times those big vibes can kind of shift us. And on Monday, then Mars shifts into Leo, and that changes things. Leo is very passionate and joyful and extroverted and all of that. So we can handle that a little bit. But Sunday's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So when we're dealing with Mars being kind of all over the place, we're also talking about it being all over the place because it is in pre-retrograde shadow period. And Mars in its pre-retrograde shadow sets the stage for, obviously, the retrograde coming up in December. The focus on Mars is generally assertion and leadership and drive and conflict resolution, all of those things. So, we're just watching everything around that. And things get kind of messy November 7th because we're going to start Mercury's shadow retrograde period. So that goes for a couple weeks before it actually goes retrograde. So just knowing. So we do have a full moon in Taurus on November 15th. And that's going to be interesting because it's kind of joined with Uranus. And it just has a little more drama. And Saturn stations direct, thank goodness, the same day in Pisces. And that gives us more balance. Okay? Because the universe likes a little symmetry, just like my parents' DNA. Shout out to the twins. November is bookend by new moons, like I said. And so we have the Scorpio new moon, which is ideal for Scorpio-esque things. And then we have the new moon in Sagittarius. Okay? So Mercury in Sag is also happening at the same time. We're going to have a Mercury retrograde, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we have a lot of stuff kind of happening. So back in 2008, Pluto entered Capricorn. And this year, it started in Capricorn, then went back to Aquarius, then returned to Capricorn. And so Pluto in Capricorn has been there since 2008, and now it's going to fully commit to Aquarius, where it'll be for 20 years. And that's the thing, it's about 20 years that Pluto changes sign. So as we roll into Sagittarius season, there'll be kind of that new energy of like wandering and travel and all that. Do as much as you can, but I would be either buying tickets now if you're flying, because Mercury goes retrograde on the 25th. So, just watching your travel plans. Doesn't mean you can't travel. It just means double check, triple check, all those things. And then, of course, when Pluto settles in Aquarius, it's kind of like a new era. And that's going to be important because Capricorn's pretty intense, and Aquarius has big ideas, a lot of dreams, it changes things. So the moon kind of will, when it moves into Sagittarius on the 21st, we're going to be in that kind of transition period. So just enjoy it by traveling and going to parties and saying yes. But, kind of thinking about it as this is shifting, and we're going to be in Aquarius for 20 years for Pluto. Okay, so let me see. Mercury, like I said, goes retrograde on the 25th. Sad trombone, wah, wah, right before the holidays. So Mercury retrograde means travel delays, communication mishaps. And I want to say the return of the X's, like the zombie, like I know we're out of Halloween period, but they're coming back. Anyway, that kind of happens. We go backward and our communication goes backward. People want to come back, but you get to decide. You don't have to let people back. So the new moon in Sagittarius is on the 30th of November. But, one of the things is that could be a really busy weekend. That's Thanksgiving weekend here in the States. It doesn't have to be. You can rest. You can say no. You don't have to do all the things if you don't want to. And it's kind of the message I got for everything else this month. So I pulled a tarot card to see like what energy we could bring, and the Four of Swords came up as our touchstone card of the month. And sometimes, the most valuable thing we can do is rest. Our psyche needs that. We need to wander. We need to just do a crossword puzzle, take naps, move slowly. And that embodies that Four of Swords energy. But I can hear you whining, Angelica, I have too many gifts to buy, too many parties, too many things to do. No, bitch, you listen. It's time to rest. And then dramatic soap opera, face slap, and scene, right? No, I joke. I would never slap anybody. But we are coming into restful hibernation season. And it's no accident that we pulled the Four of Swords. I mean, we have this much kind of weird astrology coming up. We are in this period right before Mars retrograde, right before Mercury retrograde for most of the month. So, rest while you can, okay? I'm telling you, you will not regret it. We are coming into this busy season. Take November to rest. Remember, the Earth's on fire. The Aral Sea is dried up. Hurricanes are wiping out big-ass cities that I love. And people are like, I need to buy a scarf set. There's nothing wrong with a scarf set. They're beautiful. But this card, it shows a knight resting, hands in prayer, namaste position at the heart center. 3 swords on the wall, one underneath him. He's protected by the church, as evinced by the stained glass window. When he's telling you it's time to rest, it's time to rest. Rest. Okay, you need to rest, sweet pea. Come on, just go to sleep. Remember when your kids would just, I don't know if you have kids, maybe you have nieces and nephews, but they just look at you and you're like, take a nap. It's just like that. Like you need to do it to yourself. Just be like, please take a nap, sweet pea. You need it. This knight is resting not just to like rest. He's in freaking battle armor. He's about to go to battle. He's resting before he goes to battle. The outcome is the same. Whether he's resting after battle or before battle, he's resting. So he's not getting up to run errands when he's dog tired. So remember, swords are the suit of air. Communication, perception, all those things dealing with the intellect. And in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, we see the Jasant, or the tomb effigy. I probably pronounced that totally wrong, by the way. But it is the knight at rest. It is his tomb. And his tomb bears a sword, and above him are 3 others. And in the top left corner, a stained glass window depicts a priest giving him the rites, or giving the rites to a kneeling person, or honoring him before battle. We don't know, right? So, not a lot of people talk about the fact that this is an effigy or a tomb, but when we look at it that way, then we have to ask, is he dead? But most tarot readers don't interpret it that way. They interpret him at rest. And I think, that kind of, we're all going there. We're all dying. None of us escape this place alive, So take the moment of quiet contemplation, contemplating life and death, contemplating what is your center. The swords are often like the most shocking cards to those unfamiliar with the tarot. And we see, like, for example, like in the 3, there's 3 swords in a heart and it's bleeding. The 10, don't even, get me started on that one. That has 10 swords on a guy's back. But this card appears pretty innocuous, but it insinuates a lot about what we're facing or what we just faced, which is that war is hell, right? And that we're going to die. So whether that tomb is filled or not, that the, fact that we die changes the stakes of the game, right? So now it also has all the baggage that comes with what happens after death. Definitely to the tarot writers and readers, death was the opening. It was the ultimate. It wasn't seen as a thing that you were like, oh no, I'm going to die. It was more like, I get to be reunited with God, right? So especially you see this resting warrior in prayer position. The effigies that were done, basically they were carved by rich people or famous knights or whatever. They would carve them in a way that would show what they were like in life. So if they were pious, their hands would be in the prayer position. If they were a warrior first, they would have and hold their sword. So this knight is in prayer position. What is that telling us? It's telling us his center is prayer and faith, okay? That he was a man of God, right? So, maybe there's part of him laying still in the tomb to, remember what's at stake. So we see in this card like this moment of beauty, a moment of peace. The usual conflict of the card is halted out of respect for something greater. And it's like the family dinner where everyone sets aside their political differences just to have a nice dinner together, or the generational grievances or the political or the, whatever. There's a higher calling prompting us to pause those small details of life and focus on the bigger idea, which is the impermanence of life, that this thing that he's about to do could kill him, right? And also remember, when we put aside our conflicts, it's not a permanent solution. It's a truce. It's delicate, and it can unravel if it's not tended to. All it needs is one sarcastic comment from one person for that all to go to hell and implode on itself. So there is a tension between stability, represented by the 4, and the sharpness of the words, right? So does true stability come from this stillness, or can our temporary ceasefire give us a little bit? That's something for you to decide. But when this card appears, it offers this momentary respite. It eases our mental turbulence. It cools our conflicts with others. So appreciate this pause before the storm. Hold on to the calm it brings, and be prepared for the return of tensions. I'm not saying there isn't going to be, but this is a time to kind of enjoy a pause. Now, when people often come to see me, they want insight onto a difficult period of their life. And the 4 of Swords comes with a reminder to kind of step back, right? To pause. So when we're taking time out and resting and meditating and bringing up our consciousness, the thing that we're bringing into battle next would be spiritual cunning, spiritual armor, so to speak. So that's why it's so vital. Okay. And if we search in the background and we see that stained glass, we have this vision of the center of this knight. He is in supplication. He is he's showing his humility. He is kneeling before someone, which is hard for, I think, anyone, but particularly a soldier, right? And I think that the stained glass is asking us to figure out what is our center. What is the thing that drives us? Maybe it's God or goddess or whatever it is. It could be a virtue like compassion, justice, fortitude, or temperance. But I think, part of this medicine is to figure out what is at your center. Why are you doing what you do? There's this great movie called The Guardians, which is a kid's movie. It's animated, but it's like all the holidays are kind of trying to save faith, and kids believing in Santa. And so Santa in this movie is like a big, like tough Santa. He's not fat. He's just like super buff, and he's got a Russian accent. By the way, he might be my celebrity crush, but I don't know. He's trying to get another character to figure out why they do what they do, what is at their center. And so he pulls out a Russian doll, like a nesting doll, Russian nesting doll, or matryoshka, and he goes, this is me. I'm big and intimidating, because the outside shows him like we see him. And then the next one, he's jolly. The doll's face is jolly. Then the next one is mysterious. And the next one is fearless. And at the center is this baby with big eyes. And he said, my center is awe. A-W-E. Curiosity and awe. So, what that stained glass is beckoning us to do is figure out what is in our matryoshka doll. What are the different layers we have? What's at our center? What's at our heart? And what are the other things we get through to get there, right? And we learn that through meditation and rest and healing, so to speak. Thinking about the wounds, thinking about what's triggering us, and then moving forward and trying to heal it before we act out, right? So the card, itself is a solitary card. So I wouldn't go to meditation circles, but that doesn't mean you can't see a practitioner or something like that. Tarot's most important cards are the cards of self-care, and this card is one, I think, of self-care. We need the sacred rest. We need to energize. We need to ready for battle. All of those things are important to us. So, as I prepared this month, I thought about what guide I would work with for the idea of sacred rest, and I couldn't ignore our friend the sloth. So in the last 4 years of monthly journeys, which I'm not doing anymore, but I have never covered the sloth, which is shocking because they're so lovable. They have that cute little face. And, there is a lot more to them than that gentle little face. Sloths can be our guide about moving slowly and intentionally and resting, So sloth is a guide that has more of a message than just slow down. He embodies sacred restorative rest, a way of being that shows us the power in stillness. So, let's just talk about like the obvious with sloths. They're slow. And that's the thing. They're built for being slow. They have slow metabolisms. They have low body temperature. They have a diet of leaves, which require a ton of energy to digest. So instead of racing through life, sloth conserves their energy. They move with absolute intention and purpose. This is a time of year where everything is like speed up, speed up. So we have to figure out where can we slow down. Doesn't mean that you can't do some of the things, but don't do all of the things. I think it's a time to look at where we're spending so much energy. Sloth encourages us to kind of pare down. So where are we overworking? Where are we too cluttered? Where are we feeling depleted? How can we conserve our energy? So we slow down to find our center. So sloths sleep up to 18 hours a day. And they just often kind of blend in with the treetops, and they move so slowly they actually grow moss, which is interesting. But the spirit of sloth is here just to say, like, rest isn't just like a cool thing to do, it's necessary. So, when sloth comes in, I feel like, we're asked to renew, to rest, to take simple restorative movements rather than think about breaking ourselves. So sloth really lives symbiotically with nature, as like most animals do, but in the rainforest it's practically an ecosystem all on its own. Algae grows on its fur. Did I say moss grows on its fur? Oh my gosh. Algae grows on its fur, providing camouflage. And in turn, insects rely on the algae covered habitat. So sloth kind of teaches us about independence and the value of moving slowly so that we can make connections, right? So, we can kind of see that medicine as being, how do you connect with your own ecosystem, meaning your family, your friends, your community, all of those things. Another thing about sloth is they only come down to do their business, so to speak, to poop once a week. So it is a ritual that makes them extremely vulnerable. And, it can kind of remind us that release work, the letting go, the clearing old energy, it's vulnerable, but it's really necessary. So we can work with sloth for that. It also is really good at protecting boundaries. Since it's still and calm, it's very sensitive to loud noises and high energy, and they often need slow and quiet spaces. The kind of meditation that we would work with, or kind of things we would do if we're working with sloth, are yin yoga, nature walks, digital detoxes. You want to do meditations where you're meditating on emptiness or stillness or mindfulness. We're going very slowly, but we're, being super present. So, sloth isn't really about laziness. It's about the sacred act of rest and self-preservation and reconnecting with the earth around us. So since sacred rest is our soul work this month, the medicine that I chose, the other earth medicine, is chamomile, the little flower that could. Now there's two kinds of chamomile available. Roman, which is often considered like the quote unquote true chamomile. It's very low growing. It's a perennial. It's a ground cover. It's hardy. You can walk on it. The second one is a German chamomile that grows about 2 feet high. Now I grow that every year, and it has like little daisy-like flowers, and you can dry them for tea. They're amazing. But the use of chamomile has documented back to ancient Egyptians. And, it was used for healing, but also just for drinking and for using. In Egypt, chamomile was associated with the gods of the sun and used in the treatment of diseases like malaria, and in the mummification process. So, even like, so I mean, we find evidence of it in Rome, in the Vikings, with the Greeks. So the healing properties of chamomile just don't apply to people. They would use it. If a plant was withering, they would plant chamomile near it. If the animals needed, they would rub it on their body. So for medicinal purposes, chamomile is used for like diarrhea, headache, indigestion, colic. It's used for sleeplessness, anxiety, things like that. And it's been used for everything from appetite to irregular periods to bronchitis to worms. So it's used for everything. It's often mixed into a poultice and applied to open wounds to prevent gangrene. Some other ways that you can use it: plant chamomile around your property for like a border or boundaries. Wash your hands with chamomile tea to ensure good luck. Carry the dried flowers with you, or a sachet of chamomile to smell. It smells amazing. It's very calming. You can carry dried flowers in your pocket. You can steep it in hot water and make tea. You can crush it and add it to incense. There's so many ways you can use it. Chamomile tea is used for glamour magic in the hair, and it's mixed with mugwort for prophetic dreams and all kinds of stuff like that. It's used in magical spells for abundance and culling in money and gambling and purification. So there is like so much amazing energy for chamomile. And the stone ally I picked is lepidolite, which is a stone of balancing the emotional body. So lepidolite is kind of like a light purple. I have a piece that's green, for example, but you so rarely find that. You'll probably find it more purple. It'll be mixed with mica. Usually they grow together. It's soft, so it's like 2.5 to 3 on the Mohs hardness scale, but it is wonderful for calming. Place it on the third eye for meditation. It activates the heart chakra. And it really relaxes you. And I just say that as someone who has ADHD and has the hyperactive part. I'll use chamomile to kind of help me go to sleep. So it balances real emotional extremes. And it's just a wonderful all around sleep ally. So, and a great stone for the Four of Swords, actually. So thank you for joining me for November's medicine, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to Centered with me, Angie Yingst. If you'd like to send me a question or comment about this show or any shows, you can send them to Angie@themoonandstone.com.